helped me so much over the past years. And I think it will help anybody who is not familiar with this. And I know to some this might be basic knowledge, but to others this is a hidden gem. And this will change your life. Because it changed mine. Okay? So, this topic I'm going to talk about today is basically blood sugar and how to regulate it. And this is just sort of how I envision it in my head, right? And basically, before we even get deep into this, we need to consider the glycemic index. And the glycemic index is basically just a list of all of the foods that have carbohydrates in them, and all of the foods in general. And they're rated on a scale of 0 to 100. And at 0, they digest very slowly into blood sugar and have very little impact on blood sugar. And in the higher ranges like 80, 90, or 100, they will digest very rapidly into blood sugar. Or those sugars will digest very rapidly and elevate the blood sugar. And so basically, the whole premise of this topic, and I'll go a little deeper as we go, is that when we are not eating much and we're just sitting, we haven't eaten in a few hours, we have a baseline blood sugar level. And this is where our blood sugar just sits at normally when we aren't feeding and when we're, just sitting and our everyday life. And anyway, we basically want to, our blood sugar starts off there. Now when we eat something, if it's low on the glycemic index, or if it's a 10 or a 20 or a 30 or even like a 40 on the glycemic index, something like this will occur. As it digests, the blood sugar will go up over time, but then it will sort of come down slowly. It'll digest slowly by the body. Now, it will end up bringing us back to baseline, and it might even do something more along the lines of this. Right? So, we're going to actually delete the first little line because we don't need it. Oh, we need that though. Whoops. There we go. Okay. And so, the blood sugar will follow along the lines of something like that. Now this is good. This is what we kind of want if we're wanting to consistently burn body fat every day. Now, the dangerous one is when we have something too high on the glycemic index, an 80, a 90, a 100, and it does not take a whole lot for this to happen the way I say it will, because it is that at those levels, at the 100 level, the things digest so rapidly, it will spike your blood sugar even in a small dose amount. So, one piece of bread, for example, one soda, one bag of French fries, these will all spike the blood sugar to a point where everything I'm about to say is going to occur. So when we have something high on the glycemic index, our blood sugar will skyrocket. once it passes this threshold, I call it the IR threshold. This is where insulin is released by the body. And this is done because the body realizes, oh my gosh, we have too much sugar in the bloodstream right now. The body starts freaking out. Inflammation starts occurring. The body starts to not know what to do with all that blood sugar, and so it sends a signal to the pancreas. That signal tells the pancreas, hey, we need insulin. We need to lower the blood sugar, release insulin now. The pancreas releases a dose of insulin. When that insulin comes in contact with our cells, and in the bloodstream it flows, insulin flows through the bloodstream. When that insulin comes in contact with the cells, it shuttles the sugar into the cells. So into the muscle cells, into any cells it comes in contact with, it's going to shuttle sugar into those cells. Whatever it can do to get the sugar out of the bloodstream, because its only function is to store the sugar. If the muscles are full, it will store them as body fat. Boom. That is the secret. If the muscles are full, it will store the sugar into body fat. Now here's the kick. This is where things get a little bit worse than just storing body fat. Insulin has a mind of its own. It's pushing this to happen, right? It's not thinking, it's just doing this. And it's this chemical that's going through your body. So now that your blood sugar is being stored into body fat, into the muscle tissue, the blood sugar levels are dropping, and they're dropping rapidly. And they're dropping so rapidly that, in fact, they go below baseline. And in fact, you go way below baseline, to the point of something like this happening. This is dangerous, because right there, we just crossed the hunger threshold. This is why, if you wake up in the morning and you have 2 pieces of toast or just bread, within 30 minutes to an hour, you will get an ache of hunger. And this is a false signal. The body has plenty of sugar. It's actually got so much sugar, it just stored it in the muscle tissue. It stored it in the body fat. However, it stored so much of it in the muscles and the body fat. Now we have low blood sugar. Now my body is telling me, hey, we have too low blood sugar. We need sugar now. Eat something. Or else I'm not going to have energy. I'm not going to have, fuel. And what this is actually a hormone called leptin. And now you have leptin flowing through your body telling you you're hungry. Because this is another threshold, by the way, when you get too low blood sugar. Now eventually, you may even out, but it's a much rockier process. It's much harder on the body. And the thing is that we have stored body fat all up in this zone. We've stored a lot of extra body fat, and it might not have been something that many calories. It might not have been something that a piece of bread is like 24 grams of carbs. That's like 80 calories, maybe 100 calories for the slice. Guess what? 100 calories stored, because we are in the insulin zone. Now there is a time for this, and I'll get to that later on here as I ramble. lose body fat, what do we do? Well, what do we do? Well, here's what we do. Resistance training, weightlifting, exercise, intense cardio, any form of exercise. What we're doing is we're burning energy and sugar stored in our muscle tissue. And so, we're depleting the glycogen levels. In order to refill those glycogen levels, the body has to produce and release sugar into the muscle tissue through the source of insulin. Boom. Second point, our body will store sugar into the muscle before it stores it into body fat. If the muscle is full, the body will store it as body fat. The body will store the sugar as body fat. So, those are the two key points here. If you just take those away, now you know. If I want to have a cheat meal, when should I have my cheat meal? Ask yourself throughout the day, when should I have my cheat meal? I'm going to have my cookie right after the workout. I'm going to have my ice cream right after the workout. And I've seen the results. I have experimented myself. And on me, this works incredibly well. Like to the point where I am convinced this is the key right here. So many people may not want you to know about this if they are trying to charge you a fee or whatever, but I'm just gonna give it to you. I don't care anymore. I'm sick of keeping this to myself or whatever. I just want to share this with everybody. This is so huge. And I think if we're more mindful, if we're eating things lower on the glycemic index, we're gonna be in such a better mood throughout the day, and then we can still enjoy ourselves right after the workout. That's the best time to enjoy yourself because it positively reinforces the workout itself. So now we're treating ourselves right after the workout. The rest of the day though, the rest of the night, the rest of the next morning, we're not spiking the blood sugar level. Now there's a couple things on here that I just have to go over. So we're gonna go over the things to avoid and then the things to eat right after the workout. So right after the workout is when I like to have something sugary. I like to have my cookie or my brownie or my croissant or, whatever it is I'm looking for, my blueberry muffin, whatever sugary thing I want to have it right after the workout. And so, I want to have it so this would be, over here we're going to have the things that we should have, and for that we want, well, first of all, we're just going to put down some low things and some high things. And these are things on the really high end that we should probably always avoid. And these will be things on the low end. And we got meats. We got beef, pork, fish, eggs, So that includes all meats. Don't just think of those eggs, because these don't even have like carbohydrates in them, and they have protein in them, which will be broken down into sugar eventually. But it takes so long and so much energy. I'm not even including it because that's a slow digesting, low glycemic index. Low glycemic index. Oops. Anyway, meanwhile on the high end we have bread. Big star on bread because bread is made of something we like to call flour. And what is flour? Okay. Don't get me started. So flour is probably one of the most dangerously hidden things from everybody's diet. I don't know if I want to call it that. It is a fallacy. It is a fallacy, flour. The sad reality that I'm about to explain to you could change your life. It could make you hate me. But flour is just sugar in its purest form. Flour, when consumed, and cooked flour, will spike the blood sugar faster and higher than table sugar. Now let that sink in. Sugar is a 70. Table sugar, the white powdered sugar you can sweeten things with, is a 70 on the glycemic index. Whereas flour is a 95 to 100. I think it is the highest thing possible on the glycemic index. I really do. And I think it's like by a lot. And this is not something we should take lightly, because flour is in a lot of things that we eat on a day-to-day basis. And let me explain to you what these things are. So, just a few lists of them. We have cereal. It is flour. It is cornmeal. It is milled. You know, whole grains that were once a whole grain, but they were taken. They were once a whole grain with all these vitamins, minerals. And they were taken by a mill, and they were drilled and shattered. And they were broken up like this, and in the middle of this grain is flour. And inside the grain is sugar in its purest form. Fiber as well. Oh, everything we need to slow this digestion down is in the shell, and it gets broken and discarded, and what we're left with is sugar in its purest form, flour. So flour is about from, besides some of the sodas, because we're going to put those on here. We're going to put soda, we're going to put fries on here. Fries are up there. Rice is like a 65. Okay, so rice is on the higher end, but it's not like beyond reasonable. And what an interesting thing is if you begin to combine these foods together, you then get a glycemic index rating of like 40. And so it can slow the digestion down with some of these guys. Or you can heighten the digestion of sugar, the speed at which with these guys. So when we have a burger, and a burger is like bread mixed with a meat, like beef, right? Bread mixed with beef. So when you have this, you're now sitting at like a, like a 70 or a 65. And so it brings it down a little bit, but it's still so high compared to what it could be if it was just the beef, And so, in my experience, one of the best things to eat every day and frequently has just been meat by itself. Meat by itself. So steak or fish or just chicken or just steak or just eggs or just bacon by itself has been massive difference in my body when I started doing that. Massive difference, and in the best way. And when I started to realize this, blew my mind, and it's just crazy that the mainstream and the corporations will want us to not know this about flour or about bread or about, cereal and candy. Candy. So yeah, I hope it helps. That's the first video I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do more of these. I'm probably gonna do it over the same thing repeatedly until I get it right. But I figure if I could share right away, maybe it'll help somebody, so I wanna continue making videos for you. If you have any ideas or wanting me to talk about a topic, I'll happily try to cover it. But for now, this is blood sugar. This is how I envision it. And this is the glycemic index, what it means. And I hope you guys learn from it. I hope it helps. Let me know if it does. And I will see you next time.